To this edition of Focus. When it comes to the economy, China's hailed as the success story of the 21st century. But when it comes to human rights, the country is still being severely criticized by the outside world. Rights groups accuse China of failing to reform, keeping its system of labor re-education camps in place. The camps were set up shortly after the creation of the People's Republic itself to keep political dissenters in check. Decades down the line, the camps remain open, and it's become an embarrassment for the central government in Beijing. In a moment, we'll bring you a report and a closer look at what's happening inside these camps. But first, we're going to let correspondent Henry Morton set the scene for us. He's joining us now from Beijing. Henry, how many labor camps are there, and how many people are being detained in this way?
Well, reliable numbers are, of course, extremely difficult to come by. These camps are a major blight on China's human rights record. Conservative estimates put the number at around 300, although many others say that those numbers should be in the several thousands. Anywhere between 300,000 and 2 million Chinese being held in these camps in varying degrees, varying conditions. Some former prisoners reporting that they were held in reasonably mild conditions, everyone having to undergo manual labour, of course, but fairly mild conditions, whereas others have said that they've received much harsher punishment. The camps are essentially places where the authorities can put people, can imprison people that they see as a threat, that they see that pose a threat. This can be anything from intellectuals to petty thieves, and it's a way for authorities to avoid the judicial process and any kind of trial. Police can imprison people in these camps without any form of trial at all.
Now, the conditions in these camps is a controversial topic and sensitive topic for Chinese authorities. They don't want a lot of details to come out and emerge to the public.
Yes, very much so. And in making the package that you're about to see, it was very clear to us how much the authorities really don't want the outside world to find out about this. The lady that we were originally going to interview for the story, her mother had recently died in one of these labour camps under suspicious circumstances. We got in contact with her. She was desperate to talk to the foreign media and tell her story. She was scared about doing it in her own home village, so she agreed to come up to Beijing to see us. However, a day before she was due to arrive, she was arrested by police, and we haven't heard from her since, or her husband. Both of their mobile phones have been switched off, and we haven't had any way of getting in contact with them. That was last Tuesday. In interviewing a lawyer here as well that you will see in the package, we were stopped by doing that once by plainclothes policemen. We assume who were plainclothes policemen. Authorities obviously very nervous about news of these camps getting out into the outside world.
All right, Henry Morton in Beijing, thanks very much for now. Now, as Henry mentioned, we have a report for you this morning. It tells the tale of two women. One is fighting to find out how her father died inside a Chinese labor camp. The other tells us her own story after she was incarcerated.
Even with her face obscured, this woman is taking a risk. For months, she says, she's been threatened by the authorities after trying to find out the truth about the death of her father. He died earlier this year in a labour camp in Sichuan, aged 66. Officials say he had a heart attack, but she and her family believe he was beaten to death.
We went to the prison to see my father's body, hoping to take it home, but the guards refused. We asked to look at the body, take off the clothes, but they wouldn't let us. We asked for an independent autopsy, but in the end they cremated my father's body without our permission.
Their father was a special prisoner, a devotee of Falun Gong, a sect outlawed by the Chinese authorities. Their mother is currently serving an 8-year prison sentence too.
My mother's in bad health. She's fainted a lot. The women's prison send us letters saying she's probably going to die soon, but they refuse to release her.
What goes on inside China's labour re-education camps, like this one in Shanghai? In recent months, human rights groups have reported a number of suspicious deaths. Li Shulian by suicide, Liu Fengqing from a heart attack. Her daughter still hasn't recovered her body. Between 300,000 and 2 million Chinese citizens are thought to be working in road construction, agriculture and manufacturing as part of re-education through labour. This woman, Miss Zhang, knows all about forced labour. After protesting against the demolition of her home and shop, she was threatened and attacked, and later spent 2 spells in labour camps, where she says she was beaten many times for disobedience.
One time, they pulled my limbs out straight and tied my feet and hands to the ends of the bed. After the first day, I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't take off my clothes to go to the bathroom. I had no feeling left in my arms.
Like many detainees, Miss Jiang was never put on trial, locked up purely on an administrative decision. Some Chinese lawyers have tried to help such people.
The labour re-education system is not open, it's not transparent. So anyone who's sent to a labour camp or condemned to forced labour faces all kinds of obstacles in using a lawyer. It's impossible to get someone to defend you or to get legal aid. Lawyers can't meet their clients, and the clients can't make use of the legal process to defend themselves.
Some experts believe the Chinese government is now considering closing down the labour camps. But they say Beijing faces resistance from local authorities, unwilling to lose the power to lock up and silence hundreds of thousands of people.
For more on these Chinese labour camps, we can now speak to Harry Wu, who's on the line from Washington. He himself spent 19 years in a Chinese labour camp before he was released in 1979. He left China shortly afterwards and is now living and working in the United States. Mr. Wu is also the founder of the Laogai Research Foundation, which works to raise awareness of Chinese labour camps. Mr. Wu, thanks very much for speaking to France24. In your opinion, how close or how far off are Chinese authorities of actually closing these types of camps?
I don't think the Chinese Communist Party can close to Laogai camps because this is a suppression machine. Everybody disagrees with the government. They have to go to the camp. Until today, we find out that Chinese at least have 1,000 Laogai camps. And in the past 60 years, maybe 50 million people was there. I'm one of them. And today, probably 3 million people was there. I don't think the Chinese can close it because until today, China is one country and one ism, one party leader. That's simple. It's Communist Party.
But there are suggestions, however, that the central government in Beijing, it actually wants to shut these camps, whereas local authorities, they want to keep the camps open. Is that a correct image?
No, I think this entirely come from the top, come from the Beijing. Because if you want to handle the people, that there's no other way, okay? This is since 1949 to today. It's never changed.
And I mean, what's the purpose of these camps in modern China? As you say, they opened up in 1949 during the Mao era, but a lot of things have changed in China. Economics, for instance, the financials of China is a lot better now, but the human rights record remains tainted by these camps.
That's true. China changed a lot. First of all, they accept the capitalism and allow the capitalism to thrive in this country, and economic area are very different. But the market and economic situation is still controlled by the Communist Party. And politically, actually, the system until today is just follow the Mao Zedong style, and the labor camps still there. Of course, they changed the name, so-called counter-revolutionary. They're using another word, so-called intent to subvert the government. Okay, and finally, in 1994, they stopped using the Laogai and stopped using the so-called slow labor and reform the prisoners and using the prison. But anyway, this is if you disagree with the government, that you have to go to the labor camps. Okay.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more, just briefly for us, who are the people in these camps at this stage?
In 1949, most of the people was counter-revolutionary and so-called landlord elements, and then later capitalists. For example, my father and me, because my father was a banker. In 1956, a lot of counter-revolutionary. In 1957, a so-called counter-revolutionary rightist. In 1960, many peasants, because of starvation of the hungry, and people have to put in the camps. And since 1979, Deng Xiaoping come up, Deng Xiaoping re-educated and reset up the labor camps. Okay.
All right. Unfortunately, Mr. Harry, we will run out of time for this morning's edition of Focus. Thanks very much for speaking to us once again. We really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to wrap it up for now here from the newsroom. Do stay with us.